Is Rodney Kelman, the Fatherpreneur, coming at you another episode of purpose-driven content. And in this series, I've been highlighting some very amazing men with amazing stories, talking about things ranging from sexual and physical abuse, emotional abuse, to suicide and drug addiction and unemployment and entrepreneurship. And tonight I'm continuing this amazing series with an amazing man, a fellow business partner, fellow entrepreneur, fellow father, who has an amazing story, and he is gracious enough to share it tonight. I muted him out real quick because he, like me, has a bunch of little ones running around the house. My guest for tonight is John Boggan. Welcome, John. Got to unmute yourself real quick.
Hey, thanks for having me out, man. I appreciate it. Hope y'all are having a great evening.
Yep, we definitely are. And as I always begin these shows, every episode, every show, we just go back into your background. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you're born, what your childhood was like. Give us some background.
Okay. I was born in Temple, Texas in 1967. I've lived most of my life in Texas. My childhood growing up, my dad was an engineer, and we moved around quite a bit, mostly in Texas. I lived in Midland, Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas, and Belleville, Texas, which is kind of close to where I'm at now. Lived in Hobbs, New Mexico. Lived in California for a little bit. That was pretty much my childhood. I was a little bit wild, like most kids are, but yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, my childhood was, I would say, pretty much normal compared to everybody else's, other than me being a little bit wild. So
now I want to give everybody a little bit of a disclaimer. This is real reality TV, so you will hear John's two young boys in the background. Which just goes to show that, the lifestyle that we live is about our family. So don't be surprised to hear daddy, daddy, daddy. And, you guys see that in my hangouts as well. My son coming by, my daughter making a little pop in. So I love it personally. I don't mind. So, we talked about your childhood a little bit, because I think one of your children is making a cameo. Explain your version of wild as a child.
Well, I was introduced to smoking and drinking alcohol at a pretty young age. Being that I'm 48, that back in the 70s and early 80s, most everybody out there that I know, experimented with drugs and stuff like that. I did that. Actually got pretty bad for a brief period of time, and it's one of the things that molded me to where I'm at now, because it made me realize that I don't need that. As an older person, I realized that in a stressful situation, I can handle it on my own, and so I did a lot of that type of stuff. In Texas, we drink and we drive. We drink and party, and you see other people drinking and driving, and when I was younger, I didn't think about that. But then, now knowing what happened to me, it's a huge thing. That I make sure that people don't drink and drive. I'll go out of my way to make sure people don't drink and drive. So, hey guys. Sorry.
That's the reality TV portion, right?
Yeah,
I'm glad that you brought up that point, because we are going to delve into that. That is a major part of your story. But it just talks about maturity. As you become a parent, just as a parent, you start to think about things differently. You reach the age of 25, 30, 40. You really start to take pictures and ingest things and process things different. So, reading a little bit of your bio, I saw that you went into the military. You sort of entered the workforce early. Move us along into that part of your life, around the age of 15.
Well, that was the time that you got to realize that was about the early 80s and 1981 actually. And the oil field was going like bonkers. It was just going gangbusters. And I wanted to buy a new truck. And my dad's was an engineer, and you know, we were raised with a fairly affluent lifestyle, but he also had a work ethic that he wanted me to have. So he wanted me to get my own job and stuff like that. Well, the only jobs that I could get were little menial jobs. And so I lied about my age and got into the oil field and made enough money to, in one summer, to buy myself a new truck. And I realized at that point that, if I put my mind to it, I can do just about anything I want to do. And I did a lot of other stuff like that. I would come up with different ideas and for at school and stuff like that, to buying things for one price and then selling them for a higher price. And I did a lot of that type of stuff when I was younger. But yeah, so the oil field thing, it's always been a part of my life. Being in Texas, it's kind of in our blood. So it was just something that I wanted to do. And I'll tell you what, it was a very eye-opening experience back then, and then to still be in it now and see how much it's changed, how much safer it's gotten, how much, in my opinion, they've kind of overdone the safety thing and actually created a lot more problems. But it is what it is. So yeah, that's pretty much how it's gone with me. I mean, it's just, if I have an idea and something's kind of in my way, I always try to figure a way around it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even if I have to bend the rules a little bit.
So kids, we do want to make clear that we are not advocating lying about your age, but we are telling you, to explore the entrepreneurial side of you, go full force with that. And so after you do something pretty amazing by, paying for a truck on your own at the age of almost maybe close to 16. Tell us about the life where you transitioned into, joining the military. What caused you to make that kind of decision? And how old were you when you did that?
I was actually about 20. I think I was 21 or 22 when that happened. And the reason that happened is, I'm the fourth child of 5 kids. So what I always tell everybody is by the time they got to me, my parents were tired. They didn't want to discipline anybody. They were just kind of throwing their hands up. And they didn't really give me a lot of discipline. And I was looking for that. And when I was in the service, when I was in college, I was living in New Mexico, and I got around a guy that was younger than me, but already had a college degree. And he was a genius, certified genius. And me and him just kind of hit it off. And he said, "Hey man, would you like to, work with me?" He goes, "How would you like to make like $2,800 a month and only work like 7 to 10 days out of the month?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm for that." And so we started doing stuff. I was a computer science major in college, and we started going to various military installations, and we would do programming. And so I was around a lot of military people, and I liked what I saw. It kind of resonated with me on what I was looking for. Jonah. And so that's why I decided to do that. I liked it. I liked what the lifestyle looked like at the time. And I personally, like I said, I really deeply was looking for that discipline. And in my opinion, it was one of the best things I ever did for myself. I didn't want to stay in for to be a lifer or anything like that, but I think it's a great thing for anybody to spend a little time in the service and do something like that. It really gives you a lot of discipline, and it makes you grow as a person.
I can respect that. As my grandfather actually served in the Navy, and a lot of my family members actually served in the military. So thank you for your service. And well, how long were you in the service? You know, what, 2 years, 4 years? How long were you?
Active about a couple of years, and then inactive. I was out, and then came back in when the Gulf War started, and I did various things. I'm really not going to go into that. I was cross-trained. I'm a cross-trained person that was. I originally came in as a combat engineer and did demolitions, and I took a DLAB test, which is a defense language test, and they decided to send me to Fort Ord, California. So I ended up going to DLI, which is the Defense Language Institute, and learned a little Russian, learned a little Arabic, Farsi, that type of stuff. I still speak a little Russian. You know, so a little, but not very well anymore. If you don't use it, you lose it. As far as the Arabic, not so much. I mean, but if I get around it again, I pick it up. But yeah, you know, I was cross-trained like that, and so I ended up doing a lot of intelligence stuff, and so some of it isn't something that can be talked about. You know,
if you do, this is where the men in black suits will start popping up behind you. So we'll respect that. We'll definitely respect that. So
yeah, I did do drug interdiction in South America. I can say that because that's out. That's declassified. I was in Panama in '89. You know, I did a lot of stuff like that. So it was interesting, and then there was a lot of stuff that I'd rather forget.
Right. Well, we've you know, if anybody has been a veteran or has a family member who's a veteran, we know that you all have those kind of stories. So we, of course, you know, respect that kind of privacy. So as you exit out of the military, you know, how long was it before you said, you know what, I want a family, or you fall in love? How did that transition sort of manifest itself in your life?
Well, I was with my first wife. We got together on February the 27th, 1984. So we were still in high school. We were high school sweethearts. We stayed together while I was in college. We stayed together while I was in the service. And she was in Texas, and I was in California and everywhere else. And we got married in 1990. We got married on October the 27th, 1990. And so, I mean, I made that decision early on in life that I wanted to get married. We didn't have kids for 7 years, though. And it's funny, when I was younger, I didn't want kids. I was like, I don't want kids. And then we had my daughter, and I was thinking to myself, man, why did I wait so long, and let's have another one. And so we did 2 years later. And you know, that's when I really settled into being a comfortable life. You know, I just really enjoyed being a dad, and you know, I was making a living, and that's another thing. Like I said, there's all these little things in my life that kind of brought me to where I am. I started to realize early on, because I used to travel a lot, that I didn't want to be away from my family so much. You know, I wanted that time with my kids, and I wanted that time with my wife. And so that set me on a path that brought me to making one decision in my life that changed everything at that point.
So baby number one comes along, then baby number two comes along, and now you're a husband, you're a, you know, you're a provider, you're a father of two. And I'm only imagining that things are just, life is just happening.
Yeah.
This is, as a father, your story really spoke to me, really resonated with me. As we look at your two beautiful little boys right there with the Spider-Man mask on, parents can really appreciate that. I appreciate it. We actually have that same mask in our house, which we talked about before this. And we started sort of talking about a piece of this part of your life earlier. So I want to paint the picture, and then I want you to take over and tell the story.
Okay.
So, former wild child, drinking and driving, partying in Texas, drugs involved, 70s and 80s style. Now you're a man, you're a grown man. You've been with your wife for a long time, father of two. You have a daughter, you have a son. Life is rolling along. There is a major event in your life that most people will never experience, or if they have, aren't able to process and talk about like you're about to. Please do us, the honor of talking about the portion of your life that changed your life.
Okay, well, I'm gonna back up just a couple of years. And the reason I'm going to do that is because there was this one decision I made that really changed things for me, and then the event happened. Like I said before, I was very kind of fed up, to hear about not having time with my kids and stuff like that. So I made one decision in my life, and at this time, and this was late 2004, January 2005, I went into business for myself, for my first business. And, it worked out so incredibly well that I tripled my income in that year. And I realized that, man, if I can do that, if I can put my mind to work and get the right education on how to do this, what can I do? The sky's the limit. So I ended up, and I was looking for a time management course at the time, and lo and behold, I found a personal development course. And I used that, and it literally changed my life by using the process that they have. Bless you. And I ended up, by 2009, I worked 6 months out of the year, and I made great money, over six figures every year, and only worked 6 months out of the year. And this allowed me to do great things with my kids, and take them to Paris for a couple of weeks, or just go wherever. And so in April of 2009, April 24th, I'm a week away from going home, and I'm in West Africa, and I get this phone call, and it was a guy that I knew. His daughter was friends with my daughter. His wife was friends with my wife. And he's a cop. And he calls me and he tells me there's been an accident, and my wife had died at the scene. And so the first thing I'm asking him is, where are my kids? Where are my kids? And they'd been life lighted. And so I'm thinking, thank God they're alive. They're just being life lighted. Well, by the time they got to the hospital, my son had passed away. And so that was tough. And so I had my daughter left, and I was working for Exxon Mobil at the time as a consultant, and they moved mountains to get me home, and I appreciate them to this day. But on the way back, my daughter passed in the hospital while I was on my way back. So all three of them died. And it's literally like, you think about it, you have your whole life and you're doing this for, you've had kids for 12 years and almost 10 years, the little boy, and you've been married for almost 20 years, and then you have that entire life just ripped out from under you, and you got this big hole, and you're just like falling into it. It's a bottomless pit. It's like falling into hell. And I really didn't know where I was going to go from that point. 3 weeks into it, I'd already planned my own demise, and I was ready to go. I mean, what else? What was left for me? What was left for me? And the reason I brought up what happened before this accident was I was cleaning out my wife's stuff out of our closet, and I found this course, this personal development course that I had used in 2006. And I looked at it and I thought to myself, that was a really positive course. That was a very positive thinking, law of attraction, visualization, manifestation type stuff. And I need to do that. So I immediately took it out and took the CDs out and listened to them. And at that point, I made the decision again, and that's funny how it is. Your life can be horrible, and you can just make one decision and change everything, right? And at that point, I made that decision. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to kill myself. I've got 3 other people I need to live for that aren't here anymore, and I'm going to manifest the life that I want. I'm going to visualize it, and I'm going to manifest that life. And so I dove into this personal development course, and I got to say, between that meditation and God, going into church, that saved my life. It did. It grew me in ways that I can't even explain to this day. How the loss of something like that, you go so deep within yourself, and you actually pick apart everything in your brain. I mean, every little detail. And when you do that, when you look inside real deep like that, you answer questions that you've been asking yourself for years, and you answer them yourself, because the answers are already there. It's all in really making the decision and letting go of the fear of looking inside and actually facing what you have inside of you. But I did. I did that, and I took 2 years of just rebuilding myself. I didn't do anything else. I was fortunate enough to have made enough money, and then I was fortunate enough the fact that my wife had life insurance, or we had life insurance on her and the kids, and so that gave me breathing room and allowed me to rebuild myself. And that's one of the reasons I joined the business the place I met you. The reason I joined that company it wasn't for the money. It was for the culture. And it's like a family, and that there's a positive mindset and all that stuff, and that's what brought me to where I am now. And now that's what I like to do. I like to help people. I like to, if somebody's lost somebody, I immediately reach out to them, to offer my services of, hey, I'm here. You can cry on my shoulder if you have some questions about this stuff. As far as like life insurance and all this different stuff. I'm no financial guy. I'm not a certified this or that, but I've walked in your shoes, and I can give you some answers. And so that's what I do. That's what I do.
I want to expound on something because it sort of brings back a tie-in where you talked about your younger years, and you talked about the accident. Um, I know from talking to you that alcohol was a part of the accident. Could you expound on what, the type of person that caused the accident that made, took the life of your family?
Yeah, this guy was a career criminal. He was a career alcoholic. He'd been in and out of, I think he'd had like 5 DWIs and gone to jail for 3 of them. And he like played this thing out every time. He would do the same thing. He would get out, he would steal a car, and then he would just travel across the United States in a stolen vehicle and rob gas stations and that type of stuff, and just drink and stay messed up the whole time. And he just happened to be driving through. Justin, stop that. He just happened to be driving through Sealy, where I live, and it just the timing was right, and he hit him head on, and that's how that happened. I mean, but he was a career criminal, and luckily he died. I mean, if God has any mercy, he let that guy die, because at that point in time I didn't have anything to live for. I would have taken him out. I would have, as a man, you want your revenge and you want to protect, and if you can't do that, then you're going to get some, you're going to get some payback. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I felt. And it's very lucky that he died, because I would have gone through the cops. I would have gone through everybody. Justin, that's making a flash over here.
What's amazing to me as you tell this story, with amazing strength, by the way, I really want people to understand the underlying. There's like a few layers to your story here. The sort of full circle moment with your own life, with issues with alcohol in the past, and how you cleaned yourself up, and how someone who didn't clean themselves up, what it cost somebody to not make a decision, as you said multiple times through your story, where you just made a decision. And if everybody listening to this, whether watching it live or on the replay, there's a recurring theme in Mr. Boggan's story, is that you must make a decision. And every decision is like a graduation. You got to graduate. You can't just be that 10-year-old, that 20-year-old for the rest of your life. We see as an example, a horrible example of somebody who never made a decision to make different choices, ended in 4 people's lives lost. And so, I appreciate John for having the strength to tell his story. He's just being honest. I appreciate you saying what you said. Most men would feel exactly like you felt after the accident. So that's, I'm not surprised at all that you felt that way. And what's amazing to me is that even in your darkest moment, you again made a decision. Entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, but you must listen to the principles behind what makes entrepreneurs successful are the same principles that can make the regular employee, self-employed person successful the same way. So I appreciate you for showing those golden nuggets right there, John, because I believe that's going to help somebody going through grief, going through loss, going through addiction, whatever their thing is, to make their decision, to say, if John can go through what he went through, and he's here telling me that you can make it with a decision, but I hope, you out there, that you can do the same thing. So thank you again, John, for being strong in that moment and being completely honest and transparent. As you move, as you move along down in your story now, where you're an entrepreneur, I believe you're still in the oil industry.
Yeah.
We happen to see 2 beautiful little boys in the background. Tell us, I mean, that can't be easy. When I first heard your story, I was automatically reminded of the story in the Bible, you know,
Yeah, the
where
Book of Job.
the book of Job, you
That's my
know,
life.
where he lost everything. And out of all things that he lost, the family had to be the hardest thing. Please share with us emotionally, physically, you know, spiritually, how did you get to a place to become a family man, to even be in a relationship with a woman again? How did you get to that place?
Well, when I found this personal development course again, and I went through it, and when I had a great pastor, Pastor Rusty Griffin, whose church I was not a part of. Wonderful guy, though. I do go to church there now. You know, he came along and he said, pardon me, he said, you will find love again. You will have kids again. And he said this to me after I'd already made the decision that I was going to do it. But you know, it was just a reaffirmation that, yeah, I'm going to do this. And from that point on, you know, I'd been married all my life. I'd been with my wife all of my, you know, adult life and part of my, you know, as a kid. And I really didn't know how to act. You know, I mean, I knew in my heart that I needed a woman in my life and that I needed kids in my life, because, you know, that's what made me whole and here. And so, and me and my wife that I have now, we had a very, I'll get you some in a minute, buddy. We had a very quick relationship. And now she had lost her husband. And that's how we met, was because she had lost her husband. And a friend of mine and my first wife actually brought us together. So, but it was something I would do. I actually would visualize. I mean, you need to understand that you know, visualization and affirmations are a huge thing in your life. I mean, you know, most people don't realize what it'll do for you. All right, having a vision board. All right, how many? Let me ask this: how many folks have a vision board? Because if you don't, you need to make one, and you need to have affirmations on there, and you need to visualize what you want every day. Because I visualized having these kids. I visualized being married. I got so, listen to this, I was so intent and so intense on my visualization. My wife that I have now has the same birthday as my first wife. Right? I mean, that's, you know, that's not a coincidence. It's not. I mean, that's a God thing. You can see visualizations as, in a way, as a prayer. In a lot of ways, because you know, they're so strong, and you're putting that out into the universe, and you're putting it up to God. You know, what you want, you know, what you're asking for, and it's given to you. And like I said, I mean, I visualized so intently on that, and then my wife ends up with the same birthday as my first wife. I mean, when I figured that out, it kind of blew my mind. And even she's even the same religious faith as my first wife. So you got to do these things. I mean, it's so important in your life to really figure out what you want, make that decision, take action, and be consistent, and follow these steps that I'm talking about: visualizations, affirmations, you know, making a big plan and doing a vision board and thinking long term and thinking outside the box. I mean, you've got to do it. And if you do it, so my kid just hit the thing. You all right, buddy? You all right? Yeah, you tripped over that, didn't you? That's what will. That's what got me through, and I think that works with just about anything. I've done this with other people who have.
It's okay, Daddy. Just spill it on.
Did it spill? Okay.
It's just next.
But I've done this with people that have had relationship problems, and I've done this with people that have had problems.
I'll put the ice in there.
You'll put the ice in there? Okay. Yeah, my kids spilled the drink. Yeah, I mean, those are the type of things, in my opinion, everybody needs to do to really move forward in their life. I mean, and I wouldn't have told you this 10 years ago. I wouldn't have said anything like that 10 years ago. I would have said, it's luck, it's this, it's that. I would have never said, visualizations, affirmations, having your faith in your religion. None of that. I would have never said any of that. But now, I absolutely believe that these are the things that brought me to where I am now.
There's something that I want you to expound on, because you sort of had a reset almost, where you talked about the birth of your daughter, or you were saying you didn't really want children, but once she came along, it's like, yeah, let's do that again. And you talked about visualization and affirmations, and you ended up with a wife with the same exact birthday. I want you, as a father who's lost, who gained again, that moment your son, the older of the two sons that are there now, the day he was born, the moment he was born, please share with us what you were feeling at that moment.
Just pure elation, knowing that I was going to be a dad again. And I mean, I hit my knees and I thank God that I had this opportunity again. Because let's face it, I've gotten what everybody would call, when we were kids, we would call it a do-over. My whole life's a do-over, and I've had the unique ability to start over and be a dad all over again. And so I'm like, there's a whole lot of things that I did wrong with my first kids, and that I'm not doing wrong with these kids. And one of the things is not getting you just gotta let everything kind of slide. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you've got to be a disciplinarian, but at the same time, like right now they're kind of wild, and that's because we're doing this right now, and so they're excited that I'm doing this. And, but they're kids, and that's something I've realized in my second time around, that they're kids, they're not adults, and you have to understand that. And so I look at it from an entirely different perspective now. Just the like I said, the elation of having having Justin. It was a double-edged sword for a while, because I would look at him and it would bring back all the loss that I had. That probably lasted about 6 months. But I knew that the positive side of it, and this is another thing, it helped me grow, and seeing the good in every situation. If this hadn't happened, I wouldn't have these kids. If none of that had happened to me, I wouldn't have the wife I have now. Those are the great things. And
I put that cup in it, and I put all the ice in it, and I cleaned up all this with the cat.
Awesome, buddy. Let me
I'm a
finish.
hard worker.
You are a hard worker. So he's something else. But yeah, I mean, you know, that is, you know, I mean, this type of stuff right here is it just it makes me feel good. It makes me warm inside, you know, to know that I've got this child he's awesome, and it's a little like it's a little different having two boys instead of having a girl and a boy, because they are like they are wild when they want to be, but they're good kids. So yeah, I'm loving every minute of it, and that's why I do what I do, so I can spend as much time with them as I can.
You just encapsulated what fatherpreneurship is about, you know. I mean, I really and truly appreciate you sharing your story and all the layers to your story. I actually learned a little bit, you know, something I could work on as a father with my own patience, with my son, who's almost 7. He can be wild and he can do all the things and interrupt me all the time. But, you know, I'm just watching you right now, and I just really appreciate your fathering, how you're fathering right now. So hopefully, you know, all the things that you're doing that I'm picking up on, the viewers will also pick up on, you know, as parents, that we can do better. And you've shared a lot tonight. We spoke briefly about this definitely needs to become a book. You know, your story needs to become a book. You know, so I'll support that myself whenever that comes out and help you promote that, because I know that just like whoever's watching tonight will receive healing, will receive a lot of great information on how to move forward, what to do. And, you know, and if anybody's out there that, you know, wants to talk to you, that says, hey, man, that he's been through what I'm going through, how can they reach you? How can they, you know, speak with you? How can they get in contact with you?
Well, a good way is on Facebook, but I'll even give you my phone number. The phone number is 832-863-1272. Sometimes you know, sometimes I'm in places where my phone doesn't work, but for the most part, I always have that on me. And Facebook is a great way to get a hold of me. Twitter, so at John Boggan, all one word, at Twitter. That's another great place to get a hold of me. I check those things every day. And in fact, I hate to say this, I live on Facebook. I really do. I use it all the time, and Facebook and Twitter.
So is that phone number correct right there? And spelling
Yeah,
everything?
that's it. That's my cell. That's my cell number.
Well, that's, you know, that's very genuine of you and very giving of you to give out that information. So we appreciate you. And as I wrap up tonight, you know, I just want to drive home some points and some principles so you can understand what the takeaways are. One, decision making. Not just being a good decision maker, but the power of making a decision to graduate to your next level. John has exemplified that in his life and in his story. We happen to also, you know, be, you know, workers in the same business model, same company, and you know, so we share a lot of the same experiences. And so those things that he's talking about are absolutely true. I can attest to that. For everybody out there that's going through loss, I've been through loss of my mother, which I've talked about briefly in some of the other hangouts. And it also took God for me to heal from, well, you know, my own grief. But there is a way, and you know, John talked about being at his lowest point, and many of my guests have talked about suicide, actual attempts, you know, feeling like they there's nothing else to live for. And if there's one bit of encouragement or inspiration I can say to that person feeling like they're at their lowest point, that is, you are worth dying for. You're worth dying for. So for you to take your own life, to say that there's no hope, you are guaranteeing that what could have been will never be. You're guaranteeing that those children in the future, just like John, has in the background of his life, in this hangout right now, will never come to pass. And whatever that their purpose on this earth would have been, never gets to come. And I talked about how that can be one of the most selfish things you can feel, even though you feel alone. Just know that you are never, ever alone. And stories like this, some of my other guests are proof of that. I'm asking you to decide to live. I'm asking you to decide to embrace what you are worth dying for. If you want to, learn more about what I'm talking about, about dying for, reach out to me, email me, Facebook me, and I'll talk to you personally about that. But your life is so invaluable. Your life is worth so much to so many people. You may not be able to see it yet. You may not even know who those people are now. But give it one more day. Give it one more week. Give it one more month. Give it one more year. And see what amazing things can happen. And so I want to wrap this up by saying thank you to my guest, John Boggan. I want to say thank you for your most valuable commodity on earth, which is your time, because once you give it away, you'll never get it back. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday night to fatherpreneurship.com for another amazing story, amazing highlight, amazing person to help inspire, educate, motivate you. God bless you. See you next time.